The world trembles under the weight of its own unraveling. Imagine the crackle of a radio cutting through static, a collage of voices, urgent and trembling. Record-breaking wildfires consume entire towns. A helicopter whirs over floodwaters, swallowing cities. Diplomatic ties severed as global alliances crumble. Screens flicker with AI-generated faces, their hollow eyes promising salvation or annihilation. Beneath the cacophony, a question lingers like smoke. Could this chaos, this symphony of collapse, have been foretold? Enter Jeane Dixon, the enigmatic prophetess of Camelot, whose name resurfaces like a ghost in modern headlines. Decades ago, she scribbled warnings of a tipping point in 2025, a year when humanity would stare into twin abysses, environmental fury and existential division. Today, her words feel less like mysticism and more like a grim playbook. The skies are aflame, California's infernos staining sunsets blood red, hurricanes baptizing coasts in ruin. Nations are fracturing, echoes of civil strife in once stable democracies, autocrats sharpening knives over resource wars. And technology? It hums with menace and miracle. Algorithms predicting disasters they cannot stop. Drones delivering medicine and surveillance in equal measure. Yet, here's the chilling twist. Prophecies thrive not because they're true, but because we make them true. Dixon's vision, vague as a tarot card, becomes a Rorschach test of doom. A farmer in Iowa, watching his drought-ravaged fields, wonders if her barren earth warning was etched for him. A senator, fists clenched at yet another failed climate bill, hears her whisper, "Brother against brother." But is this destiny or a mirror? The haunting truth lies in the pattern-seeking human mind, desperate to carve order from chaos. We've danced this waltz before. Nostradamus, the Mayan calendar, Y2K. Yet 2025 looms different, a collision of tangible crises and existential dread, where prophecy and reality blur. Dixon's voice, resurrected in archives, rasps. The choices are yours. The storms rage louder. The question isn't whether she saw the future. It's whether we're scripting it ourselves. One complacent step toward her abyss, or clawing back, defiant, toward the light. In the shadowed corridors of 20th century mysticism, few figures loom as large or as hauntingly enigmatic as Jeane Dixon, the self-proclaimed seer of the century, whose name still whispers through the IAB decades like a half-remembered omen. Born in 1904 to a world still steeped in Victorian rigidity, Dixon clawed her way into the American psyche not through grandeur, but through the chilling precision of her visions. By the 1950s, she had crystallized into a cultural phenomenon. Her predictions splashed across newspapers, and her counsel sought by power brokers and starlets alike. But it was her grim foretelling of President John F. Kennedy's assassination that etched her into history. A young Democrat with shining hair will die violently in office, she allegedly murmured in 1956, years before Dallas. When the fatal shot rang out in 1963, her prophecy became a macabre badge of credibility, transforming her from mere psychic curiosity into an oracle of the modern age. By the 1970s, Dixon's syndicated astrology columns reached millions, their cryptic musings devoured by a society grappling with Vietnam, Watergate, and the creeping dread of the Cold War. Her voice, captured in crackling archival recordings, still carries an eerie magnetism today. Low, deliberate, laced with the gravitas of someone who'd glimpsed the void. "The future is not fixed," she intoned in a 1973 interview, her words echoing like a dirge. "But certain currents pull us toward destiny." Listen now, and those recordings feel less like relics than warnings. For buried in her labyrinthine prophecies lies a singular, chilling thread. Her vision of 2025 as a tipping point for humanity, a year when the world would teeter between salvation and collapse. What makes Dixon's 2025 prophecy so unnerving is its eerie resonance with our present chaos. She spoke of skies aflame, a metaphor that now feels literal as wildfires reduce entire towns to ash and hurricanes drown coastlines in biblical fury. She warned of brother against brother, a phrase that mirrors our age of hyperpolarization, where democracies fracture and algorithms radicalize. Even her musings on technology, machines that heal and destroy in equal measure, seem ripped from today's headlines, where AI promises miracles while fueling existential dread. Yet Dixon's genius, or cunning, lay in her ambiguity. Like Nostradamus, she cloaked her predictions in vagueness, allowing each generation to mold them to its anxieties. To skeptics, she was a master of cold reading, her hits mere statistical inevitabilities amplified by selective memory. But to believers, the parallels are too precise to dismiss. Beneath the debate lies a darker truth. Prophecies thrive not because they predict the future, but because they shape it. Dixon's 2025 warning taps into a primal human craving to find order in chaos, to believe that someone, somewhere, holds a map to the madness. Consider the farmer in drought-stricken Nebraska who, after losing his crops to record heat, stumbled upon Dixon's 1970s column predicting barren Earth under a burning sky. Or the tech executive who, amid AI ethics debates, now pores over her writings on the double-edged sword of progress. Are these mere coincidences, or proof of a thread connecting past and future? Historians argue that Dixon's legacy is a Rorschach test for our times. Her 2025 prophecy, vague yet vivid, becomes a mirror reflecting our deepest fears. Climate apocalypse, societal collapse, the dehumanizing march of technology. Yet, there's a tantalizing duality to her work. While she foreshadowed doom, she also insisted on free will. "The choices are yours," she often stressed. This tension between fate and agency is what makes her 2025 vision so electrifying. Are we hurtling toward her predicted abyss, or might we still alter the course? As the world staggers toward 2025, Dixon's voice grows louder in the collective imagination. Online forums dissect her columns, documentaries resurrect her interviews, even skeptics pause when a hurricane bears down or a new AI ethicist sounds the alarm. Perhaps her greatest prophecy was not of events, but of us, of a species so desperate for meaning that we'll weave myth from misery, and so terrified of uncertainty that we'll cling to the words of a long-dead seer. The question is no longer whether Jeane Dixon saw the future. It's whether, in our hunger for answers, we're scripting that future ourselves. One headline, one disaster, one whispered prophecy at a time. Jeane Dixon's vision of 2025 unfurls like a fever dream. A mosaic of catastrophe and paradox, stitched together with the cryptic poetry of a seer who thrived in ambiguity. At its core lie three pillars, each a dagger poised at modernity's throat: environmental collapse, political fractures, and technological duality. Let us dissect them, not as mere predictions, but as eerie echoes in a hall of mirrors. A sky aflame, waters rising. Dixon's environmental warnings, once dismissed as apocalyptic fluff, now pulse with grotesque relevance. In 2023, Canadian wildfires choked continents with smoke, turning New York's noon sun into a hellscape orb. Miami's streets, knee-deep in king tides, shimmer like canals in a sinking Venice. Farmers in India kneel before cracked earth, their prayers drowned out by the roar of drought. Dixon's flaming sky is no metaphor. It is our reality. Yet skeptics pounce. She spoke in riddles. True, but when a 1970s column resurfaced last year, citing rivers reversing their flow as the earth gasps, hydrologists paused. The Baby-Two Colorado River now dwindles to a trickle. The Mississippi did temporarily invert currents during historic 2023 floods. Coincidence? Or had Dixon glimpsed the arrhythmia of a dying planet? Brother against brother, nations divided. Hear her. Prophecy sharpens into a blade. The 2020s have birthed a global epidemic of division. Far-right movements surging in Europe, America's capital under siege, China and Taiwan locked in a dance of dread. Dixon's brother against brother evokes not just civil strife, but the atomization of truth itself. Algorithms splinter societies into warring tribes. Elections hinge on rage, not reason. Yet Dixon's track record complicates the narrative. Her infamous JFK prophecy, a bullseye, lends credence, but her 1980s claim that a child emperor will unite East and West by 2000 collapsed into absurdity. This duality is key. She was no infallible oracle, but a prism refracting humanity's daintaitsu, darkest fears, machines healing and harming. In this, Dixon's vision feels most prescient and most terrifying. She wrote of hands of steel that mend bones and break spirits, a duality now incarnate. CRISPR edits genes to cure diseases and crafts bioweapons. AI diagnoses cancers with godlike precision, while deepfakes erode democracy. A Silicon Valley engineer, racing to align AI with ethics, confessed to me, "I read her machines of light and shadow line during the ChatGPT hearings. It felt like a warning from the grave." Yet Dixon's vagueness shields her. Had she foreseen blockchain, quantum computing, or merely intuited humanity's Faustian pact with progress? To decode Dixon's 2025 is to confront her greatest trick, the alchemy of credibility through selective memory. Her hits, JFK, The Rise of Reagan, are amplified. Her misses, a 1999 messianic utopia, a 1987 Soviet Renaissance, buried. Psychologists call this apophenia, the human urge to find patterns in noise. But what if the noise itself is the message? Dixon's prophecies, like tarot cards, are empty until we fill them with meaning. When a Ukrainian soldier, crouched in a trench, texts his mother about Dixon's nations divided by fire, is he finding solace or scripting his doom? Historians argue that Dixon's true gift was not foresight, but storytelling. Her 2025 narrative, A Tipping Point, mirrors the archetypal hero's crisis found in myths from Gilgamesh to Star Wars. We are wired to see our struggles as cosmic turning points. Yet here's the rub. Climate models do peg 2025 as a critical emissions deadline. AI is predicted to outpace regulation by then. Dixon's prophecy, however accidental, collides with empirical thresholds, blurring myth and math. Ultimately, her 2025 is less a prediction than a Rorschach test. To the climate activist, it's a call to arms. To the conspiracy theorist, proof of a scripted demise. To the scholar, a cautionary tale of how prophecy can become a self-fulfilling script. As the clock ticks toward her enigmatic deadline, 1. Truth chills. Whether by divine sight or dumb luck, Dixon tapped into the 21st century's primal scream, a scream we're now living, breath by ragged breath. The sky burns, the machines watch, and the prophecy, real or imagined, is ours to endure. In the blood-tinged dawn, the world's newest apologies are whispered in the crackle of scorched trees, eerily mirroring Dixon's harrowing visions of a landscape undone. The air tastes of ash and ominous portent, an echo of Maui's inferno and a chilling refrain of the most recent IPCC report, which warns that every flicker of flame across our planet is less anomaly and more prelude. Under this unsettling glow, we stand at a crossroads. Though science screams its warnings in high-decibel data, the Earth speaks back in convulsions of fire and flood, tearing at the seams of our complacency like a stage below a collapsing chandelier. Yet empathy strains to catch the narrative beyond the numbers. A survivor, hollow-eyed and hushed, confesses, "I never believed in prophecies until I saw the sky turn red." This moment, suspended between disbelief and dread, forces us to reckon with a new hierarchy of truths, where myth and data entwine, and the raw geometry of devastation becomes our unwelcome tutor. Just as landscapes fracture, so do societies. Beneath polished political theaters, old alliances flail, and polarization widens into yawning fissures. We witness electoral tensions metastasizing into domestic skirmishes, each campaign slogan a lit fuse threatening to detonate tribal resentments. Beyond our borders, Ukraine endures ceaseless assaults on its sovereignty, while Taiwan hangs in the balance, caught in a geopolitical vice. In these clash zones, the haunting whisper of history reminds us that when people clutch at identity like life rafts in a storm, the siren call of extremism grows louder. Each broadcast spat of misinformation, another brick in the wall that divides us from reason. These fractures do not merely delineate opinion, they cleave the social fabric to its core, leaving us to rummage through the debris for any glimmer of consensus. Yet even as firestorms roar and ballots become battlegrounds, the hum of technology offers its own dual-edged promise. In sterile laboratories, molecular marvels inch us closer to eradicating ancient diseases, wielding CRISPR like a scalpel against genetic affliction. In parallel, AI ethics debates rage with equal fervor, as algorithms once hailing progress now provoke nightmares of mass surveillance. The ghost in the code watches our every keystroke, offering efficiency one breath and eroding privacy the next, leaving us haunted by the possibility that the machines we conjured to save us may also become sentinels of control. As medics celebrate cures, activists fret over data streams that map not just our health, but our habits and hopes. This schism between exhilaration and alarm frames the most modern of paradoxes: how to embrace innovation without surrendering our humanity. The convergence of these crises, ecological ruin, political rift, technological quandary, casts a pall so heavy it seems to whisper that redemption is reserved for those who dare to listen. Our daily headlines, once read and dismissed, now ripple through collective memory like incantations of an unfolding prophecy. Each report of a wildfire, each editorial on election integrity, each seminar on AI's moral code spins into the same tapestry of urgency and unease. They are the omens by which we chart the narrative of our time, the scales of fate tipping between renewal and ruin. We are the reluctant protagonists in a story too vast to ignore, holding the fragile thread of tomorrow in our hands. And in that suspended moment, as the survivor's words linger like a curse and a benediction, we find ourselves poised at the edge of the abyss, haunted not by visions of what might come, but by what is already upon us. The debate over Jeane Dixon's 2025 prophecy ignites like a storm, lightning fracturing the sky between reason and revelation. On one side stands Dr. Eleanor Voss, a historian of esotericism, her voice cool as a blade. Prophecy is always retrofitted, she scoffs, surrounded by crumbling manuscripts in a dim university archive. Dixon's words are Rorschach blots. We see our own dread in them. When she wrote Waters Rising, she wasn't predicting climate collapse. She was riffing on Noah's Ark, a trope as old as fear itself. Voss dissects Dixon's legacy with surgical precision. The JFK hit was a lucky guess among dozens of misses. The 2025 tipping point, a recycled metaphor from 1960s nuclear panic. Humans crave narrative, she warns. But stitch enough vague warnings to enough disasters, and you'll always conjure a pattern, even if it's not there. Yet across the chasm, mystic commentator Lila Marlowe leans into the crackling static of a late-night radio show, her tone urgent, almost evangelical. "You think it's all coincidence?" she hisses, as callers flood the line. Look at the fires, the floods, the AI spiraling out of control. Dixon's sky aflame is literal now. Marlowe resurrects Dixon's 1973 interview, where the seer rasped, "Machines will split the world in two." ChatGPT, killer drones, split in two. Marlowe repeats, each word a hammer strike. She didn't know algorithms. She saw them. You can't explain that away. Her followers cling to these parallels like life rafts, their faith a bulwark against chaos. Between them strides Dr. Raj Patel, a climatologist knee-deep in a California wildfire's ashen aftermath, his face lit by the hellish glow of flames. "The crises are real," he growls, data tablet in hand. "But Dixon's fatalism? That's the danger." Patel's team races to model ice melt timelines, their graphs screaming urgency. Yes, 2025 aligns with emission thresholds, but that's math, not magic. We're not doomed, we're deciding. He spares no mercy for mystics or cynics. Marlowe's destiny paralyzes action. Voss's skepticism risks complacency. Focus on her prophecy, and you miss the point, he snaps. This isn't about predicting the future. It's about building it. Yet, the tension lingers, thicker than smoke. Voss, Marlowe, Patel, each holds a shard of the truth. Prophecy is a mirror, science a scalpel, faith a flame. In a Texas town hall, a woman rises, voice trembling. "I survived the wildfires. The sky was red, just like Dixon said. Does that mean we're doomed?" The room holds its breath. Outside, the wind howls. Somewhere, a skeptic, a believer, and a scientist all answer. But their words dissolve in the gale. The only certainty? The clock ticks toward 2025, and humanity remains suspended between the stories we inherit and the future we dare to shape. The cracked earth of Nebraska hisses under a relentless sun, and John Cooper kneels in his parched soybean field, fingers brushing soil as lifeless as ash. His grandfather's tattered 1978 almanac sits in his toolbox, its pages dog-eared at a Jeane Dixon column warning of barren lands and hungry generations. "Granddad laughed at her," John mutters to the wind, "called her a huckster, in pearls. But what's left to laugh at? His crops have failed 3 years straight. His well coughs dust. Last spring, he sold half his land to a solar farm. Glossy panels now devouring the horizon, a stark monument to adaptation. At night, he replays Dixon's words like a curse. The earth will turn on its children. Was this what she meant? Or is he just another man grafting his grief onto a dead woman's riddle? Either way, the prophecy lives in him now, a seed of dread or resolve. 1,000 miles east, in a dim Capitol Hill alcove, 2 figures huddle over coffee-stained legislation. Senator Maria Reyes, D., and Congressman Jack Holt, R., ideological enemies turned uneasy allies, draft a climate resilience bill their parties loathe. Their pact began with a late-night argument over Dixon's 2025 prediction. "You really buy that mystic crap?" Holt had sneered. Reyes slid a photo across the table, her Puerto Rican hometown submerged by Hurricane Fiona. "Brother against brother," she quoted, eyes blazing. "Or brother with brother." Now, they work, in stolen moments, haunted by Dixon's tipping point and the clock. Their staffers call it quixotic. Pundits call it political suicide. But in whispers, they admit the truth. The prophecy isn't guiding them. It's goading them. What if we're the counter-narrative? Reyes wonders. What if we're the choice Dixon said we had? These are the human tremors beneath the prophecy's tectonic plates. The raw, unscripted stories where myth collides with muscle and grit. John Cooper, half broke and halfway to belief, plants drought-resistant sorghum between solar panels, his grandfather's ghost muttering, "Adapt or die." Reyes and Holt, fists clenched against partisan fury, trade insults and amendments, their bill a fragile bridge between worlds. Dixon's vision thrives not in the abstract sky aflame, but here, in the sweat of a farmer reimagining survival, in the grudging handshake of rivals who've glimpsed the abyss. Prophecy, after all, is inert without humanity's spark, the anger to defy it, the hope to rewrite it. As 2025 looms, the question hangs. Are these stories proof of Dixon's foresight, or fragments of a future we're clawing into being? The answer may not matter. For in the dirt and the deal-making, the prophecy becomes something far more dangerous. And more alive. A mirror. And in its reflection, we see not our doom, but our power to choose. Burn or build. Jeane Dixon's ghost lingers not in the words she left behind, but in the fevered pulse of those who resurrect them. A testament to prophecy's true power, its grip on the living. For centuries, from Nostradamus's cryptic quatrains to Dixon's 2025 tipping point, humanity has weaponized prediction as both compass and crutch. Consider the medieval peasant clutching Nostradamus's verses as the Black Death raged, or the Cold War housewife scanning Dixon's columns for hope amid nuclear dread. Prophecy thrives in the shadow of uncertainty, its allure rooted not in accuracy, but in agency. It offers the illusion of control, a script to follow, a villain to blame, a destiny to defy. Dixon knew this. Her warnings were never mere forecasts. They were psychological landmines, detonating in the psyche of a species terrified of randomness. Yet herein lies the trap. Prophecies breathe through our choices. When a climate activist chains herself to a pipeline, screaming Dixon's sky, aflame, as a rallying cry, she fuels the very urgency the prophecy demands. When a tech CEO halts AI research, citing Dixon's machines that split the world, he bends progress to the shape of her warning. Conversely, a senator dismisses disaster prep as fatalistic nonsense, only to see his district drown, a self-fulfilling spiral of denial. Dixon's legacy, like Nostradamus's, is a hall of mirrors. We see what we fear, then march toward it, mistaking reflection for fate. Compare their blueprints. Nostradamus cloaked his visions in medieval allegory. Beasts mad with hunger will swim across rivers. A pandemic? An invasion? Dixon modernized the formula, swapping zodiac signs for geopolitics. Her 2025 prophecy, a Rorschach blot for the Anthropocene. Both mastered the art of strategic ambiguity, but Dixon's genius was timing. Nostradamus cast his net across millennia. Dixon set an expiration date. 2025 feed looms like a guillotine, its deadline sharpening our dread into action, or paralysis. Yet, the deeper truth is this: prophecies endure not because they predict, but because they reveal. They are X-rays of the human soul, exposing our craving for narrative in a universe of chaos. A Ukrainian soldier scribbles 2025 on his helmet, drawing strength from Dixon's Nations Divided by Fire. A Silicon Valley skeptic mocks him, then pauses, mid-scoff, as her AI prototype predicts market collapse. The line between myth and reality blurs, and the prophecy, once dormant, stirs. Dixon's final lesson: we are the authors, not the audience. Her 2025 is not a countdown to doom, but a challenge, a flare shot into the dark, illuminating the choices ahead. The sky may burn, the machines may rise, but the pen remains in our hands. The question is whether we'll write an elegy or a revolution. The clock strikes midnight toward 2025, its pendulum swinging between Jeane Dixon's shadow and the white-hot glare of now. Whether her visions were divine whispers or the delusions of a gifted charlatan matters less than the reckoning they force upon us. The prophecy, any prophecy, is a flame held to the kindling of human agency. Will we let it consume us or light our way? In the smolder of California's wildfires and the acid bite of political vitriol, grassroots embers already glow. In Detroit, retirees retrofit abandoned factories into community solar grids, their hands blackened not by soot, but hope. In Louisiana's storm-whipped bayous, mothers paddle skiffs of supplies to flooded neighbors, stitching solidarity where levees failed. Even in Congress's tinderbox, a fledgling dialogue corps pairs MAGA diehards with progressive firebrands, not to agree, but to listen. Their sessions soundtracked by Dixon's rasping refrain. The choices are yours. This is the ET paradox of prophecy. It shackles us with dread, then dares us to break free. A teenager in Mumbai scrolls Dixon's predictions between climate march flyers, her rage curdling into resolve. She saw the sky burning. She texts her group, "We're the ones who will douse it." History's arc bends not by mystic decree, but by the weight of countless hands gripping it. Dixon's 2025 is not an endpoint. It's a flare shot over no man's land, illuminating two paths, one where we succumb to the prophecy's seductive fatalism, and another where we claw past its limits, writing a future fiercer and more fragile than any seer could fathom. The hourglass drains. The choice, yours, mine, ours, gathers in the silence between heartbeats. What will we pour into the ashes,